Hi everyone, this is an online lecture for equilibrium. So after studying the behavior of consumers buying, which is the demand, and study how sellers sell their goods and services, which on supply, we will now put the two together, right? Demand and supply, and it will equate into what we call the equilibrium. Let's see what it is. Now, in econs, we call the price that we buy of a certain good and service an equilibrium price. This is what the equilibrium going to yield us. Okay, uh, we take price in our daily life for granted. All right, but many of us before studying econs, we never think about where do price comes from, right? How do we know that this is the price that we should pay? How do sellers know that this is the price to charge? Okay, so demand and supply is going to tell us how the price in a market comes about. Okay, now this is how it looks like when we put the demand and supply curve together. Okay, now let's revise a little bit. The demand curve is a downward sloping curve. All right, from left to right, downward sloping. Now, why is it downward sloping? Because we are talking about consumer buying behavior. Expensive, $5. High price, they buy very little. Quantity 5 only. When the price is very low, $1, consumer want to buy a lot more, 25. Okay, but the sellers are different. Low price, $1, they are not so interested to sell. If it's high price, $5, they are very interested to sell. Okay, so both of these different forces come into an agreement. This is the point that they meet. We mentioned in the pre-lecture, this is called the equilibrium point. Okay, a very important point. Now, whenever we draw a diagram, this is a point that you must secure, and then you look at what information it gives us. Now, in this case, on the price, the y-axis, okay, it tells us that the equilibrium price is $3. This is the amount that buyers will pay. All right, the price tag you see, $3. All right, this will be what the sellers are collecting. This will be what the buyers are paying. All right. Now on the X quantity axis, this is the amount that of goods and service that will be changing hands. So 15 will be produced by the sellers and bought by the consumers. Okay. Now, of course, in the usual market, the price can change. Okay, the price can change. Now, how do the price change? You look at the diagram like this. Okay, very very obvious. The price, the equilibrium price, and the equilibrium quantity can change when either of these curves begin to shift. Now, you learned from last lessons that why and how the demand and supply curves can shift. Okay, when either of these curves shifts, it will change the equilibrium values of the price and quantity. Okay. Now we talk about how the curves can shift. All right. In this case, the demand curve can shift to the right by shifting to the right. That means demand rises and demand falling. Okay. Now the factors are all in your notes and the flow chart has been given to you. Okay. So please revise. When does consumer want to buy more? In this case, demand curve shift to the right, resulting in equilibrium price rising and equilibrium quantity rising. Okay, and when does demand decreases, leading to equilibrium price falling and equilibrium quantity falling. Okay, we're going to revise the factors. Now, similarly, supply can increase by shifting to the right, and supply can fall by shifting to the left. Okay, now we also evaluated what were the reasons why supply can shift. Remember, we said that shift means that suppliers are willing to supply more or supply less when the ongoing price do not change. So we evaluate certain factors such as cost of production. You must remember what are the examples of cost components of suppliers as well as the number of suppliers, technology and productivity. Okay, so the shifting part is actually quite straightforward, but you must remember the factors that cause demand or supply curve to shift. A reminder, all factors are unique to either demand or supply. There cannot be a factor that will shift both curves. Okay, the factors that shift either of the curves are unique to that curve. So please revise and remember which factor shift which curve in which direction. Alright? Okay, see you in class. Now, when demand and supply curve meet each other at this point, this is our equilibrium point. Okay, and this gives us the market price and the market quantity, in which is the amount of goods that change hands between the buyer and the seller. Now, we mentioned in lecture that this point may not come automatically because the seller doesn't know what is the equivalent price. So the seller may sell at too high a price, at $2.50 in this case instead of $2. So when the price is too high, consumers are not so willing to buy. Okay, on the demand curve at $2.50, consumers are only willing to buy quantity 4. But suppliers want to sell at a higher quantity. Remember, suppliers want to sell more when the price is good at a higher price. Okay, so suppliers are willing to sell at 10. So what happens is that the market does not have an agreement, and there's a surplus as a result of this. So an excess of 6 units, 10 minus 4, that's not bought by consumers because the price is too high. And the lecture we talk about how do we get to equilibrium from here. So when the seller find themselves in this position whereby they sell too much and too expensive, they will lower the quantity supplied and lower the price, and they move towards equilibrium. Now, if the seller sells at a price that's too low, in this case at $1.50, consumers are very willing to buy. Quantity demanded is 10, but suppliers are not so willing to sell. Quantity supply is 4. So now there's a shortage of 6 units. Now, when there's a shortage, the supplier find themselves in this position. They'll try to adjust by increasing the quantity supply as well as the price. So they move towards the equilibrium from this point towards equilibrium here. Okay? Now, in the pre-lecture, I show you guys this slide. When we study demand and supply, just a diagram, there's only two parties involved in the market. The demand curve is controlled by the consumers. The supply curve is controlled by the suppliers. Okay? Now, the government, which has legislative power, can come into the market to forcibly change the equivalent price higher or lower. Okay, let's see how the government does that and why does it want to change the market price. Now, one of the ways that the government can bring about changes to the market is to impose a price ceiling. We mentioned in lecture that the aim of imposing a price ceiling is to help consumers because the government thinks that the equivalent price at PE is too high. So the government forcibly pushed the price down, alright, to announce that there's now a price ceiling. That means the current market price cannot be higher than PC. Okay? So now, when the price is lower than equivalent price, you see that what's happening is, because the price is now cheaper, more people are willing to buy than the suppliers are willing to produce. So the quantity demanded over here at Q2 is more than quantity supplied at Q1, resulting in a shortage. Okay? Now, we mentioned in lecture that the government must know how to resolve the shortage. Otherwise, this price ceiling cannot hold. What's going to happen is, black market is going to occur. Okay, if the price ceiling cannot hold, a black market is going to occur between the price ceiling and equilibrium price. That means because of the shortage, the sellers will try to sell at a higher price because they know that consumers are willing to buy. Okay, so a black market occurs over here at the cursor. Okay. Now, price floor is another way that the government can interfere in the market by imposing a price that's higher than the equivalent price. Now, I mentioned in lecture that this is mainly done to help producers because the government feels that the current equivalent price is too low for the producers. So the government will raise price forcibly through imposing a price floor. So now the minimum price, alright, is at PF. Now, because the price is higher than equilibrium, more suppliers are willing to sell than consumers are willing to buy. So the quantity supply is more than quantity demanded, resulting in a surplus overproduction of the goods. Okay? Now, the government must try to resolve this, otherwise the surplus will lead to wastage and overproduction of the goods. Okay? Okay, that's all I have for you for this lecture. Now, the next lesson will go deeper into the consumer buying part on elasticity. A very interesting topic. See you then.